often put it this way. In order for us to be in the state that we're in today as people, we have to be out of our minds. We literally have to be crazy. It is necessary for us to be crazy. It is necessary for us to be backwards. It is necessary for us to be maladjusted. It is necessary for us to be disunited. It is necessary for us to be self-hating. It is necessary for us to be filled with an inferiority complex. In a world where the European is essentially about 10% of the world's population, if that 10% is to continue to rule over the other 90%, it must keep that 90% out of its mind. It must keep that 90% in a state of deception. It must keep
I apologize. Thank you for tapping in. This is Brian HRap B. Williams. This is the End of the Bench Media, and this is a program by the name of A Few Minutes with HRap. What we will do today is this. We will talk about a few things, hopefully enlighten you, hopefully most importantly, hope to inspire you and put you in a position to get up, move, and do things that we can do to improve our community. Thank you for tapping in. Once again, hit that like, hit that share, tell a friend to tap in. We do this every day, Monday through Friday. I didn't do it yesterday. Had some other things going on. Therefore, here I am today on Saturday. Now, with that being said, I want to thank my parents, Dolores and John. Without Dolores and John, there would be no me. Without me, you'd be doing something totally different. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whichever time you're tapping in. And you know, always go to www.thaendofdabench.com. Watch the history video in its entirety. Today, it will be from Home Team History. And you can also watch any program that I've had over the last 43 episodes. Thank you. Now, the question I asked today was this. It's a simple question. Well, it's a statement. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X died for DEI. We're not going to reduce it to the letters DEI anymore. We're going to call it what it is: diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because when we simplify things, it reduces the value of what is being said in that instance. We must, at all times, maximize the importance of what we're talking about. Now, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Malcolm X and Dr. King literally died for those things. Let me get that. I got my wrong camera on and get the right camera on. Thank you for dealing with me. Thank you for dealing with me. I'm dealing with the wrong camera. Okay, let me get that right camera going on. Bam, there it is. We're back in business. Thank you. So diversity, equity, inclusion is paramount to our existence in the United States of America. People are fighting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, you got these are just two of the thousands, tens of thousands of people that have passed away, been murdered, been lynched, been shot, stabbed, incarcerated for diversity, equity, inclusion. Diversity, equity, inclusion is totally different from integration. Diversity, equity, inclusion is the opportunity to integrate if you see fit. Now, and it also gives you an opportunity to take advantages of the monies that are taken out of your check every 2 weeks or every week and infuse it to the government. And then those funds come back in the form of a myriad of things that I'll talk about in a little bit. So are we willing to let the deaths of these two men, two of the most respected men in the history of the United States of America, films, documentaries, speeches, oratory programs, all sorts of things have been dedicated to the lives and the celebrating of the lives of these individuals. It is February, a month celebrated first and foremost by the great Dr. Carter G. Woodson, starting off as a week, Black History Day, and celebrating the birthday of Frederick Douglass. And in the mid-70s, it turned into Black History Month. So what better time to celebrate two of the people who are almost the poster men of Black History Month. They did everything they can so you can have the opportunities you could. Dr. King did it and helping with the Civil Rights Act, doing everything he can for that. And Malcolm X spurred him on and then spurred on a movement that did walk lockstep into creating this process. What I want us to do is this. It is an iconic conversation. It is an ironic conversation that we're having about diversity, equity, inclusion. We need to look at all aspects of life in America, and I'm going to cover that in a brief period of time. And then I'm going to show you some things about how the Doubting Thomases of our community will always say, hey, it can't be done. These it can't be done. You know, no one can do this. And I'm going to show you a portion of a video in which it was done in the 1800s, not the 1890s, not the 1880s, not the 1870s, or even the late 1860s, the 1820s. We must understand the power that we have, the things that have been accomplished, so we can use those things and understand that power and move forward. We can not only look back, but we need to look back. It's almost like looking at a map and then understand we can blaze that trail ourselves. Now, when you talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI, it has been turned into profane language for racist white people and people who are followers from the white community and other communities throughout the United States of America. What I want you to do and understand is this. Everybody is anti-DEI because they figure it's going to give us some form of advantage because the establishment has made it so when you help out my community, it does a detriment to everybody else's, which is contrary to popular belief. When you look at things like the Civil Rights Act, you see things like how diversity, equity, inclusion, aka the 1965 Civil Rights Act, has benefited everybody in the United States of America, including the Black community. So when you're doing these things, what we're going to do is move forward and take advantage of everything that's possible in this country for each and every individual and every citizen that walks the face of this. Walks around this country. Now, as I mentioned, the aforementioned DEI. Here's how people who are anti-DEI are hypocrites. Sunday, what's the Super Bowl? It was the halftime performance. A lot of people in popular culture, I would say most people who engage in pop culture, they are engaging in a conversation about DEI. About Kendrick Lamar's halftime show. One of the biggest arguments, and there was a reporter on Fox who went through like an 8-minute diatribe about how egregious the performance was, how woke the performance was, and other adjectives that were detrimental to the performance as well as the message that included the performance. It was ironic that a person who was anti-DEI, who's anti-woke, had an issue that there was only people on stage were Black people. Because he said it should have been more diverse, which is the first letter of DEI, diversity. So if it's not a problem, if DEI is a problem, how are you upset that no DEI on the performance of Kendrick Lamar and the young lady SZA had no white people on it, had no Latino people on it? How is that a problem? See, DEI is only a problem when you don't think you're going to have the advantage. When you don't have the advantage, then you will be at a disadvantage in your mind because you're simple-minded and you're single-minded and you're racist and you need to oppress, denigrate, and disregard people. That's the key. That is the key. And when people do those things, they show their true colors. So if you don't want diversity, equity, inclusion, and you and the people at your network promote that anti-diversity, equity, inclusion, how could you simultaneously and hypocritically go on the other side of that fence and say, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is what we don't want anything that does not include us. You see the difference? It's okay to exclude you, but don't exclude me. This is why I do this program on a daily basis, because Once we do these things and discuss these things, then we can understand how to combat these things. We can hopefully wipe the crust from the eyes of the people who are asleep and not understanding what's going on. You say one thing and you say it in an eloquent way, but you mean something totally different. It's called reading between the lines. What we need to start doing is reading between the lines. Just because you have a clean cut and a nice suit and you execute your opinions with excellence and elegance does not mean you're intelligent, thought-provoking, or a caring individual. It could quite very well mean that you're a racist, a narcissist, and you have no regard for human life outside of the culture that you're a part of. And most people on Fox, that's exactly what they are. And then you have a few people who join in and swim down that same pond because they want to be white adjacent, white racist adjacent, or they're self-loathing individuals that do that very thing that they accuse people in my community of doing, victim shaming, Sage Steele. But we're going to move past that. This is why I'm here. So we, as a community, can identify some of the problems and then we can move forward. The biggest issue I have with my community is at times we act as if we cannot walk and chew gum. Now, what do I mean by walk and chew gum? We act like we cannot walk and chew gum. We can either protest or get engaged in politics. No, they go hand in hand. They go hand in hand. With the walking portion is this. We can buy things, we can entertain, we can develop entrepreneurs, we can be civically minded, we can do a lot of things. We can start businesses and develop communities. That's what we do. We've done it since the beginning of time, literally from the beginning of time. That's the walking portion. And that's the easy part because to entertain is part of your natural capabilities. To be an entrepreneur, it's more than likely it's an inspiration that comes from within. To educate, anyone cannot be an educator. Anybody can teach you 1 + 1 is 2, but it takes a special individual to identify the individual, know his strengths and weaknesses, and be able to communicate with him. See, communication is not just exchanging words. What it is being able to tap into that person. Once you speak that person's language, then you can openly and honestly communicate. And I don't mean English, Spanish, French, Russian, and any of the dialects that are on any of the 2,800 dialects that are on the continent of Africa. I don't mean those languages. I mean, if you are a person attempting to communicate with me, maybe you want to come from a historic point of view. Maybe you want to come from a hip hop point of view. Maybe you want to come from a point of view of enriching my community. Now you have my full and undivided attention, and then we can engage, and then you can weave what you actually want into the conversation, making it applicable to my palate. But some people are into technology. So if you can equate or make your points connect with technology, then you're speaking that person's language. Some people are financial. This is how you educate someone. You give them the opportunity to do what they need to do by their means, but in your path. That is communication, because you are enriching them and you're taking what they already know and enriching that and infusing that with your information, and you move them and put them in an uplifting position. That's how you move forward. It's 1,000,001 ways to do it, but we as a community have to start doing it. And in order to do this, we must infuse politics with that. Oh, I'm not a political person. That's not acceptable anymore. We can no longer say I'm not a political person because we see the results of that. We can no longer just, oh man, I'm a businessman. That's all I need to know. No. Because in order to get the funding for your business, some of us need to go to banks. Some of us need to go to jobs. And that's where politics come into play. See, I'll close out talking about politics, but This is the walking portion of this. We have the walking portion in spades. The chewing of the gum, that's where we struggle. That's where we struggle. We no longer want to put ourselves in a position whereas we're just chewing gum or just walking, because you need to have both, walk and chew gum, metaphorically, of course. So if you want the best community for you, you must have people working on both sides. You must develop the academic process, and the same energy that you put into your athletic and entertainment process, you need to put it in academia. You must learn things. You must know how things work. You must know how things will benefit you. If you don't know those things, then they become irrelevant to you. And anytime something becomes irrelevant to you, you won't infuse your entire being into that. You'll be willy-nilly with it. That's why some people find themselves excelling and other people don't. And it's not all the time because the person isn't motivated. It's because there's a disconnect. Everybody in the history of the world needs math, but how many people need algebra? All of us, because algebra does not teach you about numbers. It teaches you a thinking process. You can go on an angle, northwest, southwest, northeast, southeast, central, and any other angle that you want to come at. This is why you need to learn these things. And when you learn, everything is applicable to something else. You understand it's a cyclical process. And once you understand that process, you'll immerse yourself to the best of your ability. Will everybody be a mathematician? No, but everybody can learn the principles of algebra. So that way you can develop your mind. And when you develop your mind, you develop the minds around you. And then it becomes a community of electricians, doctors, orators, politicians, grocery store people, and so forth and so on. God made no blanks. Everybody is good at something. And we can all do those things that everybody else is good at. I can learn to play the guitar. That's just an example. But I won't be as good as Jimi Hendrix and Prince Rogers Nelson. Rest in peace to both. But I can learn to play. I can learn the basics. I can pluck out a tune. So no, I won't be as musically inclined as a genius at this, but I will understand the principles. And once I understand the principles, I can communicate. And again, it goes right back to the whole situation. For the chewing gum portion, after this video, I will show you the importance of the chewing gum. The video will enhance the chewing gum aspect of what I'm talking about, but I'll cover that in a second. This is what I want you to watch. You know, every day I give you something, and I want you to check this out in its totality, because I want you to go to my website and check it out in its totality, or just go to Home Team History. He has a Patreon page and a YouTube page. It's important that you get this because this will help us move forward. I'll be back in about 2.5 minutes.
As I've stated many times before concerning the topic of slavery in America, African peoples and their descendants resisted enslavement every step of the way. According to the sources, they did this in diverse ways. It was different from region to region with varying degrees of effectiveness, the most obvious being the taking up of arms. Other forms were sabotage, damage, escape, and more. However, one form of resistance seldom discussed in popular culture that offered the ultimate reward with little to no consequence was the process of the enslaved suing their master for freedom. What up, African world? It's Home Team here, and welcome back to another video of African history, culture, and worldview. By supporting this channel on Patreon, you're helping in the creation of these videos and contributing to this content. The link to Patreon is in the description box below.
There are things in life that aren't easily defined. Moments so legendary.
Enslaved Afro-descended people in North America were not myopic in their approach to finding pathways to freedom. Seemingly, all avenues were considered, and they were ready and willing to sacrifice. I think we often hear of the violent ways in which enslaved Africans chose to liberate themselves. However, there were numerous cases, especially in early America, where enslaved peoples used the law. Via hindsight, the irony is that the early law of the land could both enslave the African and also liberate him. While America was beginning to form its identity, it struggled deeply with cognitive dissonance. On one hand, people came to the country to liberate themselves one way or another. This was a very potent value set. However, they had to do so in the face of an obvious contradiction. The paradox of this American dilemma did not go unnoticed amongst foreign visitors. Two Frenchmen visited America in 1831. They traveled to most regions throughout the country and wrote about their experience. It was an intellectual tour of sorts. Interestingly enough, both men simply could not ignore the glaring societal contradictions. In the United States, they found that the rule of law coexisted with savage violence. They discovered throughout America a broad equality of manners and deep inequality of wealth. Most of all, they were astonished by the coexistence of freedom with slavery and equality with racism. Surely it is a strange fact, Beaumont wrote, that there is so much bondage amid so much liberty.
So much bondage among so much liberty. If you would listen closely, you'll understand where I was coming from in regards to this. This is a situation to whereas you have people attempting to dominate other people, and they are adhering to laws. If you don't know those laws, if you don't know the rules of the game, aka if you can't chew up the meat and spit out the bones, then you'll be trapped inside of a paradox that you'll never be able to escape from. These are the things that I want you to understand. We are not doing our due diligence to understand the rules of the game. Your option to not know politics is equivalent, and I do mean equivalent, to not knowing how to read and be able to live in a world based on technology. You're not going to be successful. You're not going to be successful. Because if you don't know how to read, you won't understand things. If you don't understand things, you're a child. If you're a child, you'll be dominated. If you're dominated, you can be put in prison, whether it be mentally or physically. If you're in prison mentally or physically, you are just like our ancestors, being held into bondage by chains, threats of violence, as well as abject violence, be it chopping off of limbs, lynching in front of your family, or just maimed, period. These are the things that I want you to understand that are on the horizon here in the United States of America today in 2025. It sounds a bit explosive. It sounds hyperbolic, but those are the truths that we face as Black Americans today and working class Americans as well. This is what I want us to understand. The chewing gum aspect, the walking, the entrepreneurship. We can start our own grocery stores because people didn't want us in theirs. The entertainment. We can sing, we can dance, we can run, we can jump, we can throw, we can entertain people because it's who we are. We have the physical capabilities, the mental capacities to do anything that we want. But the chewing gum aspect of walking and chewing gum, the chewing gum is learning the rules. Because if you don't learn the rules to music, you can't play music. If you don't learn the rules to any athletic activities, you can't do it. If you don't learn the rules of writing a play, you can't write a play because it'll be run on sentences, it'll be misspelled words, and be things that will be utterly confusing to the person attempting to enact what you presented to them. You've learned the rules before. You know the rules in other occasions, but what you don't do is take the time to learn the rules of the land that you live in, and then you find yourself in a precarious situation, and you find yourself potentially murdered with no repercussions, potentially incarcerated falsely with no repercussions, but laid off, fired, enslaved, and kept in a caste system at the bottom of the totem pole, and no one wants to be there. This is the reason, and the only reason you must understand the laws of the land and the politics of the land. As I stated 2 days ago, people who are in charge, they are no longer playing the game of politics. They are playing the game of total domination. But they disguise it in a political way. You have people who are stressed out, afraid, and panicking right now because their Social Security is going to be cut. Their SNAP benefits could be cut. These people are attacked. They put someone in charge of the Department of Education who assumed, these are her words, I assumed I had a teaching certificate. You assume that? I haven't assumed anything that I've accomplished in my life. I've accomplished a bachelor's degree in criminal justice with a minor, in juvenile justice. I've accomplished that. That is not a farce. I have documentation. I have transcripts. I have study time. I have papers that I've written. I have the work put in. So I don't have to assume I have to pay it back. There's no assumption when it comes to a certificate of any sort. Certificate, I don't assume that I have the permission to buy firearms in the state of Illinois. I don't assume that. I know that. I know that to be true, just as sure as I know my name. I know it to be true. So how could you assume that because at one point you were a substitute teacher that you obtained a certificate? No, you can't assume that. That's a bull-faced lie, but they're trying to destroy the Department of Education. Why would they want you to destroy the Department of Education? The very same reason, it's the flip side of the coin, that I'm telling you that you need to understand the rules of engagement in regards to politics, because it is the distribution of the benefits of the tax dollars that you pay, you and I pay every time we get paid, every time we purchase something, the entire existence here in the United States of America. They want you to believe that we can do away with income tax. You know why? Because if you're not intelligent enough, and intelligence has nothing to do with your capacity. Intelligent people are informed people. And when you're informed, and it doesn't make us, it's a difference, intelligent and smart. A smart person can pass any test in the world. An intelligent person can pass the same test and use that information in the practical sense. Intelligence is, in essence, the use of all the information that you've gathered in a practical sense. That's what an intelligent person does. I can tell you a lot about fixing a car. I can't fix a car because I'm not intelligent enough to fix a car. But allow me to move forward. What we have to do is be intelligent and astute enough to understand the rules of the land, meaning the political process, electing people who are going to do our bidding, removing ourselves from that, and understanding every time there's an election, we need to be up to snuff. Guess what? 2,800 books have been removed from the book scrolls throughout the United States of America. Most of those have something to do with Black history. There are laws in states like Florida that states if a white person is uncomfortable, you must apologize and stop talking about that in a classroom setting. They want to remove, because ignorance is powerful. If I remove your mind, I control your physical. That's what they tried to do to our ancestors. But they were smart enough, astute enough to pass those stories down, teach their children how to use the North Star to navigate. They were smart enough to use the very church that they attempted to brainwash them as a conference to allow people to teach them how to get away from their enslavers. This is what I want you to understand. This is why you understand the political process. So you can get on the school board. So you can get on the city council. So you can have a mayor that you can control. You know why you need to control the mayor? Because he's a civil, short for civilian, servant, meaning he does the bidding for the civilians in his realm, whether it be city, county, state, or whatever, whether you're the county president, the mayor, or the governor of the state. You are a servant. You asked to be a servant. And if you're not astute enough to understand that, or you're not grasping that concept, this is why you have people say, well, they don't do anything because they weren't told to do anything. You need to be driving around your community today, tomorrow, for the rest of your life and looking for problems. And then you need to call your state rep. You need to call the what we call committeeman or councilman or city council or alderman or anybody who's in power that you voted for. This is why you need to know those things. No more, they know what I'm supposed to. No, they don't. Because guess what? They're busy stealing off the top. But if they are working for you and they understand that you're right there, it doesn't make a difference if he has a Republican sign next to him or a Democrat sign. He asked to be the voice of the people. Remember, you took the Constitution test. If you graduated from 8th grade, you took the Constitution test here in the United States of America. A government for the people, by the people. You're there doing your bidding, Republican and or Democrat. This is why I always ask you to download the 5 Calls app. Because when you download the 5 Calls app, guess what happens? You get that direct line in your local and in the federal, and you call both those lines. That the Democrat or Republican thing means nothing. A lot of people have been duped again. They were not intelligent enough to understand. They were smart enough to pass the test. They were not intelligent enough to immerse themselves in the rules of the game. But you know how to play spades, you know how to play poker, you know everything about football, baseball, basketball, you know everything about television, you know the things that you want to know. You've immersed yourself in them, you know the rules, and you know how it goes. But when it comes to saving our lives or keeping ourselves and our great-grandchildren, you know what I'm saying? Great-grandchildren safe, we're not studying that game, the game of life. So what I need us to do is stop worrying, galvanize, organize, then galvanize, then move forward. It's only one way to do it. Immobilize, come together, galvanize, come together with an idea and ideals, and then move forward. If you believe this can be done, the Republicans will never listen to us. What I want you to do is go back 60 years, 61 years now. Go back 61 years. And you know what? Go back 65 years. 65 years ago, there's no way you would have told somebody in the United States of America a black man would be president one day, because we were struggling to vote. Go back 165 years ago, we were just being emancipated. You could have never told somebody that it would be black mayors, black governors, black senators, black anything of people in charge. Let's go back to the day that Coca-Cola made its first $10 million. You ever thought it was a black CEO? No. So if Dr. King, in the face of abject racism by both parties at the time, can get the Civil Rights Act passed, if Abraham Lincoln 165 years ago say, hey, what we're going to do is emancipate people to help win this war, and he even said he didn't want us voting. He even said he didn't want us in legal positions. He even said he didn't want us as elected officials. But guess what? Here we are. In 1960, there was only like 900 some odd elected black officials in the United States of America. We had our own stores. We owned our own homes. We controlled our community. Now we have over 10,000 people as elected officials, and we don't have, and 80% of that stuff is gone. That's because we took a step back and allowed people to start thinking and doing for us. It's time to walk, create, entertain, make banks, and do things like that, and chew gum. Learn the rules so we can maintain the power that I just spoke about. I need you and everybody who enjoyed this to like and say, like and subscribe, comment. Let me know where you're from in the comment section. If you approve or disapprove, agree or disagree, I would like to hear from you. Go to www.thaendofdabench.com, take care of that, or go comment right here on YouTube. We just greatly appreciate all the support you provide. But understand, DEI is to help everybody in the history of the world and the United States. And if you want to stay here and be comfortable, and you want to defeat the tyranny, racism, and oppression, you must learn the rules of the game in order to play the game so you can win at the game. Thank you. See you Monday at some point. This is HRap. This is End of the Bench Media. 2 fingers, 1 word, and guess what words you're not going to hear?
And it is necessary for those people who rule over us and who rule over African people the world over, if those people are to stay in power, they must destroy our ability to love each other in a healthy sort of way. This is why